Myrna, and this is the Celluloid Carnival. So, I'm a classic movie fan, obviously, but if I had to pick a specific genre, I would probably pick horror films every time. One of the first classic films I ever saw was Val Lewton's The Body Snatcher, which is a pretty freaky movie when you're 9 years old, or at any age, really. In a way, I think that horror films are the most honest films because they tap directly into our subconscious, and they are reflections of the deepest fears of the culture and time period in which they were made, which can also make them the most fascinating films to analyze. Horror films require horror stars, and in this episode I will be counting down, or rather up, my personal top 10. There's a couple of disclaimers I want to mention at the beginning. First is that my show is, of course, a classic film podcast, and that means different things to different people. But for my purposes, I am looking in this episode at actors who were prevalent in the silent era up until the 1960s, and by necessity, that means that I will be leaving off many names that came into prominence in the 1970s and later. The other thing is that this list is all men, and this is because of the way horror films were cast during the period that I am looking at. Women were generally relegated to the victim role, and with a few notable exceptions, which I hope to talk about on a later episode, were not given the types of parts that would put them at the top of a list like this. Now, if this were a larger list, I would certainly include a Gloria Stewart, and a Hazel Court, and an Evelyn Akers, and etc. I guess an additional disclaimer that I should throw out there is that this is a very subjective list, and your opinions might not necessarily reflect mine, even though mine are correct. That's a joke, you guys. I made a joke.